It was a night where the rain didn't just fall. It hammered against the earth, drowning the city in gray. That was the night my girlfriend of 3 years left me. She pointed a manicured finger at the gleaming red Porsche curbside and told me I was only fit to rot in the mud. I stood there, letting the freezing rain soak into my bones, genuinely thinking I might die of shame or hypothermia. But then, Riley Sterling found me. My childhood friend, the heiress with a tongue sharper than a switchblade and an attitude to match, held an umbrella over my head. She dragged me back to her place and, with a clumsy yet scorching kiss, rewrote the script. It's just a kiss, isn't it? Caleb, I can do it better than she ever could. It had started earlier that evening. The wind was whipping dead leaves through the streets, turning Seattle into a swirling wind tunnel. I stood outside Tiffany Hart's apartment complex, sharing an umbrella that was struggling against the gusts. A muddy puddle had formed at our feet, reflecting our miserable expressions. Caleb, let's break up. Tiffany's voice was flat, calm. She might as well have been telling me she was ordering takeout. I froze. It felt like an icy hand had reached into my chest and squeezed my heart until it stopped beating. Why? She looked up. The face I had loved for 3 years was now a mask of cold indifference. Why? She scoffed, as if I told a bad joke. You have a nerve to ask why? Look at you. You're scraping by on minimum wage gigs. You hesitate for 20 minutes just to buy me a handbag. Now look at Mr. Vance. Yesterday, he bought me a car like it was nothing. I followed her gaze. A brand new red Porsche was parked illegally at the curb, mocking my rusted-out Honda Civic tucked away in the shadows. My throat felt like sandpaper. Tiffany, I'm working on it. You said you'd wait for me to get my break. Wait? Until when? Until I'm old and wrinkled and you're still stressing about rent. Tiffany's voice sharpened. Caleb, I'm going to be honest. I'm done. I don't want a life where I have to check the price tag on everything. What I want, you can't afford. The rain drummed against the umbrella, a rhythmic assault on my sanity. I looked at her, the girl who used to make me soup when I had the flu, the girl who said we could handle anything, and she looked like a stranger. So, that's your excuse for cheating? I asked, my voice raspy. A flicker of guilt crossed her face, instantly replaced by self-righteousness. It's not cheating, it's upgrading. A guy like you, who only offers empty promises, deserves to be left behind. She snatched the umbrella from my hand without a backward glance and marched toward the Porsche. The passenger door swung open, and a slick-haired, middle-aged man leaned out, holding a jacket over her head. I stood there like an idiot, letting the icy downpour drench me in seconds. Tiffany slid into the leather seat. As the window rolled up, she gave me one last look, a mix of pity and disgust. Caleb, don't embarrass yourself by chasing me. You belong in the gutter. The Porsche's engine roared, tires spinning and splashing a wave of muddy slush all over my jeans before speeding off. I don't know how long I stood there. When my limbs went numb, I finally started walking, moving like a zombie, toward my studio apartment. Inside, I didn't bother with the lights. I collapsed onto the thrift store sofa. Darkness and despair swallowed me whole. 3 years, my youth, my love, all traded for a you belong in the gutter. I fished a pack of cigarettes out of my pocket. They were soggy, ruined. Damn it. I hurled my lighter across the room and buried my face in my arms, my shoulders shaking uncontrollably. Suddenly, a violent pounding echoed from the door. Bang, bang, bang. It sounded like someone was trying to break it down. Who is it? I roared, annoyed. Me. Riley. Open up. A crisp, commanding female voice shouted back. Riley Sterling? What is she doing here? She was my neighbor growing up, practically family, though we had a volatile dynamic. She was the classic rich girl with a chip on her shoulder, toxic-tongued, and impossible to please. If we didn't argue once a day, something was wrong. I ignored her, assuming she was here to complain about some trivial nonsense. Not opening. Go away. Caleb Stone, do you want to die? I'm counting to 3, and if you don't open this door, I'm kicking it in. 1, 2. I knew her temper. The crazy girl would actually do it. I ran a hand through my wet hair and dragged my heavy body to the door. Riley stormed in like a hurricane. She was wearing a simple white tee and denim shorts, her dark hair in a high ponytail. Her flawless face was twisted in anger. She shoved me aside and slapped the light switch on. The sudden glare made me squint. Riley took one look at me, soaking wet, covered in mud, and her frown deepened. Did you fall in a sewer? I didn't have the energy to fight. I turned to go back to the couch. Don't touch me. Riley grabbed my arm. Her grip was surprisingly strong. Did you and Tiffany break up? Her voice lost its edge, replaced by a subtle tension. My heart twinged. I pulled my arm away. None of your business. Ah, so you did. Instead of getting mad, she smirked as if she'd won a bet. I can tell by that pathetic look on your face. Dumped you, did she? I said, none of your business. I shouted, the humiliation finally boiling over. Riley blinked, startled, but she didn't back down. She stepped closer, her almond-shaped eyes locking onto mine. I saw a hint of red rimming her lids. Caleb, you are such an idiot. A massive moron, she yelled, poking me in the chest. I told you Tiffany was trash. But no, you wouldn't listen. Now you've been tossed aside like garbage, and you're just going to sit here and rot? Have some dignity. I don't need you to fix me. I turned away, hiding the crack in my voice. Well, I'm going to... Riley's voice wavered, sounding close to tears. You think I want to deal with a loser like you? Silence fell over the room, heavy and suffocating. I thought she would leave. She didn't. She just stood there, staring at me, with a complexity I couldn't decipher. Anger, pity, and something else. Finally, she sniffed and issued a command. Go shower. Wash that stench and mud off right now. She didn't wait for a response. She marched into my bedroom, rummaged through my drawers, threw a set of clean clothes at my chest, and shoved me toward the bathroom. Move! Don't make me ask twice. Bewildered by her bulldozing, I stumbled into the shower. The hot water hit me, thawing my skin but not the ice in my chest. Tiffany's cruelty and Riley's bizarre behavior played on a loop in my mind. When I stepped out, clean and dressed, Riley was still there. She had a mop in hand, aggressively cleaning the muddy footprints I'd left on the floor. The sight of Riley Sterling, heiress to the Sterling fortune, mopping a cheap linoleum floor was surreal. Hearing me, she stopped and looked back. Finally, I thought you drowned in there. She set the mop aside and walked up to me. She stood on her tiptoes and reached out. Her fingers, smelling faintly of expensive lotion, brushed a droplet of water from my temple. Her touch was soft, gentle. I froze. My heart skipped a beat. We were close enough that I could count her eyelashes, smell her shampoo. The air suddenly felt thick, charged. Riley, I started, needing to break the silence. She cut me off. Caleb. She looked up, her usually fierce eyes now dark pools of focus. Did you love her that much? I stayed silent. Enough to destroy yourself like this? Was she worth it? More silence. Riley's eyes reddened again. She took a deep breath, as if steeling herself. Then, to my absolute shock, she threw her arms around my neck, pulled me down, and planted her soft lips firmly on mine. My brain short-circuited. It was blank. The kiss was inexperienced, clumsy, and tasted faintly of salt from her tears. But it struck me like lightning, shattering the gloom. When the kiss broke, Riley's face was the color of a ripe apple. She was breathing hard, but her gaze was defiant. She leaned into my ear, her voice trembling but crystal clear. It's just a kiss, isn't it? Caleb, I can do it better than she ever could. The next morning, sunlight blasted me awake. Between the hangover and the emotional roller coaster, my head felt like it was being split by an axe. I sat up disoriented. This wasn't my apartment. The room was spacious, filled with modern, minimalist furniture and the scent of lavender. Riley's scent. The memories flooded back. The rain, the betrayal, Riley, the kiss, and that bold whisper. My face burned. What happened after that? I checked under the duvet. Fully clothed. Thank God. I wandered into the living room. It was empty. On the dining table sat a glass of milk and 2 slices of toast, weighted down by a note. The handwriting was jagged and aggressive, definitely Riley's. Porridge in the pot. Heat it yourself. Eat and get out. Don't dirty my sofa. No signature. Rude. Perfectly Riley. I drank the warm milk, soothing my stomach, but my mind was a mess. What was that kiss? Pity? Comfort? Or did she actually like me? I shook my head, deciding to repress the confusion for now. In the kitchen, I found a pot of creamy chicken porridge. I ate mechanically. After breakfast, I cleaned up and snuck out of her luxury condo like a fugitive. Back in my dump of an apartment, looking at the mess, thoughts of Tiffany crept back in. The ache in my chest returned. Pathetic, I muttered to myself. To distract myself, I cleaned. Laundry, trash, scrubbing the floors until my knuckles turned white. By noon, I was exhausted. I collapsed on the couch just as my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Caleb. It was a woman's voice. Tiffany's mother. I sat up straight. Mrs. Hart. Hello. I heard you and Tiffany broke up? Yes. Oh, you kids. I shouldn't interfere, Mrs. Hart shunned. But Caleb, I've always liked you. Tiffany is just spoiled. She has a temper. Don't take it to heart. I gripped the phone silent. She cried all night. Her eyes are swollen shut today. She still cares about you, Caleb. 3 years. You can't just throw that away. Why don't you come over for dinner tonight? I'll make that pot roast you like. You two can talk, work this misunderstanding out. My resolve wavered. Tiffany regretted it? She still loved me? The thought was a hit of dopamine to my withdrawal-riddled brain. I hung up and agonized over it. Logic said she chose the Porsche. Emotion said 3 years didn't just vanish. Just as I was debating, someone knocked. I opened the door expecting Riley. It was her, but she looked different. She was wearing a sharp, tailored black blazer and matching trousers. She looked powerful, the usual bratty vibe replaced by executive competence. You. Change. We're leaving. She threw a garment bag at my head. I caught it. Where are we going? My dad's company gala. I need a +1. You'll do. I don't want to go. You have to. Her tone brooked no argument. Consider it. Rent for staying at my place last night. My face heated up again. About last night. Nothing happened last night, she cut in sharply, looking away, the tips of her ears turning pink. It was an accident. Forget it. Put the suit on. I'll be in the car. 10 minutes. She spun on her heel and marched off. I looked at the suit, then thought about Mrs. Hart's dinner invitation. I needed an excuse not to go back to Tiffany. This was it. The suit fit perfectly. High-end fabric, precise tailoring. Putting it on made me stand a little taller. I looked in a mirror and barely recognized myself. A change of clothes really could change a man. Downstairs, Riley was leaning against her white Mini Cooper, scrolling on her phone. She looked me up and down, a flash of approval in her eyes, quickly masked by a sneer. Well, clothes really do make the man. You finally look like a human being. I ignored the jab and got in. The gala was at a 5-star hotel downtown. The drive was silent, filled with awkward tension. At the valet stand, she handed me an invitation. Inside, talk less, eat more. If anyone asks, you're my boyfriend. Boyfriend? I choked. What else? Should I say I hired you? She rolled her eyes and looped her arm through mine. Let's go. Don't stand there like a tree stump. Her arm was soft against my sleeve. I stiffened. The ballroom was a sea of tuxedos and gowns. Riley navigated the crowd effortlessly. Dad, she said, approaching a distinguished man in his 50s. Richard Sterling, CEO of Sterling Corp. He smiled warmly. Riley, and this is... His gaze sharpened as it landed on me. My boyfriend, Caleb Stone. Riley lied without blinking. I squeezed her hand nervously, wanting to correct her, but she dug her nails into my palm, warning me. Mr. Sterling, sir. I managed. Sharp young man. Richard nodded, not probing further, and turned back to his conversation. Riley dragged me to a quiet corner and handed me a glass of champagne. Your dad just believed that? I asked. Why wouldn't he? She sipped her drink. You're the first guy I've ever introduced to him. My stomach did a flip. For the next hour, Riley played the perfect socialite, charming investors and partners. I was just the arm candy, observing a side of her I rarely saw, poised, intelligent, ruthless. I realized I didn't know her as well as I thought. Halfway through, her dad pulled her away for a meeting. I stood alone near the buffet, feeling out of place. Then a familiar silhouette caught my eye. Tiffany. She was clinging to Mr. Vance, the greasy Porsche guy, laughing loudly. She wore a dress that probably cost more than my car and a diamond necklace that caught the light. Then she saw me. Her eyes widened in shock, then narrowed in jealousy as she took in my expensive suit. She detached herself from Vance and beelined toward me. Caleb, what a surprise to see you here, she said, her voice dripping with fake astonishment. Not really. I'm here with a friend, I said coldly, not bothering to look at her. A friend. She scanned me, her tone turning sour. Not bad, Caleb. It's only been a day, and you've already found a sugar mama? That suit isn't a rental. I turned to leave. She stepped in front of me, lowering her voice. Caleb, did my mom call you? Why didn't you come tonight? Why would I? You. She flushed angry red. Just then, Riley reappeared. She saw Tiffany, raised an eyebrow, and immediately understood the situation. She glided over, wrapped her arm intimately around my bicep, and flashed a predatory smile at Tiffany. And you are? Riley asked, knowing full well who she was. Nobody, I said. Tiffany went pale. Riley grinned, leaning up to whisper in my ear, loud enough for Tiffany to hear. Babe, my dad really liked you. He said we're a match made in heaven. She punctuated it by kissing my cheek. I froze. Tiffany looked like she'd been slapped. Her grip on her wine glass tightened until her knuckles turned white. Defeated and humiliated, she slunk away, shooting daggers at me over her shoulder. Okay, she's gone, Riley said, stepping back. I touched my cheek, looking at her smug expression. Did you do that on purpose? Obviously, she huffed. Fight fire with fire. She dumped you because you were poor? I showed her you could do better. How did you know? I trailed off. How did she know Tiffany left me for money? Riley shrugged. Don't give me too much credit. I know her type, and I know you're an idiot who ignored the fact that she was accepting gifts from other guys for months. It stung. You knew. Everyone knew except you. She saw my expression crumble and softened her tone. Hey, I didn't mean it like that. I know. I interrupted. Thank you. Riley opened her mouth, closed it, and just stood by me in silence. After the party, she drove me home. As we neared my block, she spoke up. Are you free tomorrow? Why? Come somewhere with me. Need a fake boyfriend again? In your dreams, she scoffed. It's my mom's death anniversary. I want you to come to the cemetery with me. I was stunned. Riley's mom died in a car crash when we were kids. It was a trauma that defined the Sterlings. Riley usually locked herself away on this day, and she wanted me there. Okay, I said instantly. The next morning, Riley picked me up wearing a somber black dress. No makeup. She looked fragile. We bought white lilies and drove to the cemetery in silence. At the grave, she placed the flowers and stood still as a statue. I knew she was talking to her mom in her head. I stood back, giving her space. Eventually, her shoulders began to shake. A stifled sob escaped her. I walked over and hesitantly placed a hand on her back. She spun around and buried her face in my chest, breaking down completely. I held her as she wept, feeling the barrier between us dissolve. We weren't the bickering neighbors anymore. We were just two people leaning on each other. After that day, everything changed. Riley stopped being so hostile. She was still snappy, but her actions were caring. She'd drop off high-end groceries claiming her fridge broke. She'd text me when I was working late, threatening to beat me up if I didn't eat, then send delivery 5 minutes later. I got used to it. I started looking forward to her chaotic energy. The whole Tiffany left was healing. Then Tiffany came back. After seeing me at the gala, she started blowing up my phone. Apologies, crying voicemails. Mr. Vance means nothing, she said. I blocked her number. She got a new one. Caleb, I made a mistake. Let's talk. I regret it. I only want you. Are you with Riley? She's just a rich girl playing with a toy. She'll get bored and toss you. It was pathetic. I thought ignoring her would work. But one weekend afternoon, while I was reading, the doorbell rang. I opened it, thinking it was Riley. It was Tiffany. Perfect makeup, but eyes puffy from crying. She lunged for a hug. I stepped back. Caleb. She looked up through wet lashes. You won't even let me in? We're done. Leave. I tried to close the door. She jammed her foot in the jamb. No, listen to me. I broke it off with Vance. I want you back. Give me one more chance. No. Why? Because of Riley? She shrieked, her voice turning shrill. Don't be fooled. She's a Sterling. You're just a novelty to her. She doesn't love you. Whether I love him or not is none of your business. A cold voice cut through the air behind me. Riley was leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed. I hadn't heard her come up the stairs. Tiffany looked like she'd seen a ghost. Fear turned to hate. Riley? Stay out of this. This is between me and Caleb. Oh. Riley pushed off the wall, walked past me, and linked her arm through mine. His business is my business now. Tiffany trembled with rage. You are together. Caleb, how could you? It's been a week. Before I could speak, Riley cut in, her voice low but lethal. Tiffany, that's rich coming from you. First, you dumped him for cash. Second, even if he started dating a toaster oven today, it wouldn't be any of your business. Tiffany turned purple. Riley wasn't done. She smirked. What happened? Mister, Vance couldn't keep up? Or did you realize Caleb has more potential than you thought? So now you're crawling back? Shut up. Tiffany screamed. I'll shut up when you stop lying, Riley said, her eyes turning icy. You think you're slick? Cheating on Caleb, accepting jewelry, flirting with anything that had a wallet? Do you want me to list the dates? Tiffany went ashen. I stared at Riley in shock. She had receipts? You investigated me? Tiffany stammered. Investigated? Please. You aren't that interesting, Riley sneered. I just keep an eye on the people I care about, so sharks like you don't eat them alive. She looked at me, her gaze softening for a second, then snapped back to Tiffany. You don't know what love is, Tiffany. You only love yourself. Did you ever care when his back hurt from working double shifts? Did you care that he ate instant noodles for weeks just to buy you that bracelet? No, you only cared about the status. So take your crocodile tears and get the hell out of here. Riley took a breath and delivered the final blow. Because I know how to love him better than you ever could. She grabbed my hand, pulled me inside, and slammed the door in Tiffany's face. We heard Tiffany screaming insults from the hallway, but eventually, her footsteps faded. The apartment was quiet. I looked at Riley, feeling a tidal wave of emotions. Shock, gratitude, and hope. My throat was dry. What? Mesmerized by my coolness. Riley sat on the sofa, crossing her legs like a queen, trying to regain her composure. "You said opposites here. Was that true? About Tiffany? Which part? The cheating? Yeah, I wanted to tell you ages ago, but I knew you wouldn't believe me. I figured you had to see it for yourself." I looked down. She had been protecting me from the shadows all along. "Riley, thank you. Whatever. Don't make it weird." She turned her head away, her ears burning red. And I took a deep breath. "What you said about loving me, was that true too?" The air left the room. Riley stiffened. She didn't turn around. I watched the flush spread down her neck. After an agonizing silence, she squeezed out, You heard wrong." "I didn't." I stood up and walked over to her, kneeling so I could look up at her face. "Riley, look at me." She refused. I gently took her face in my hands and turned her toward me. Her eyes were darting around, panicked. "Say it again," I whispered. "I said, you heard wrong." Her voice cracked. "No." I smiled. "You said you know how to love me better." That broke the dam. Tears spilled over her lashes. "Fine." I said it. "So what?" She started hitting my chest with her fists, sobbing. "I like you. I've always liked you, you idiot. You blind moron. I was right there. But you had to go and fall for that gold digger. Do you know how much that hurt?" She pummeled me, letting out years of frustration. I took it. When she slowed down, I pulled her into a hug. "I'm sorry," I whispered into her hair. "I'm sorry I was blind. I'm sorry I made you wait. But I see you now." I pulled back and wiped her tears. "Riley, you've always been chasing me. This time, let me run to you." "Okay." Riley sniffled, her tough act completely shattered. I held her, feeling a sense of peace I'd never known with Tiffany. "Hungry?" I asked after a while. She nodded, wiping her nose. "I want that risotto you make." I smiled. "Okay." I went to the kitchen. She followed me, leaning against the doorframe, watching my every move with intense focus. "What? Afraid I'll burn the place down?" I joked, chopping shallots. "Shut up." She pouted, but her eyes were tender. I made a creamy mushroom risotto, stirring it patiently. When I set the bowl in front of her, she took a bite, and her eyes lit up. "Well, better than your personal chef." She didn't answer, just shoveled another spoonful into her mouth. When the bowl was clean, she looked up, a grain of rice stuck to her lip. "Caleb, yeah, that was the best risotto I've ever had." I laughed and reached out to wipe the rice from her lip. She blushed crimson and looked down. I leaned across the table and kissed her forehead. "I'll make it for you every day." Riley jumped up, her face on fire. Who asked for every day? I'm doing the dishes." She grabbed the bowl and ran to the sink. I watched her go, laughing. God, she was cute. After that day, the friend zone was officially demolished. Riley and I were a couple. We did normal things, movies, grocery runs, walks in the park. Riley still had her moments of sass, but mostly she was clingy in the best way. She dragged me shopping, not for flash, but to optimize my aesthetic, as she put it. She used her network to get me interviews, pushing me toward a career path I actually wanted. "You're gold, Caleb," she'd say. "You were just covered in mud." Under her influence, I rebuilt myself. I wasn't the sad, broke ex-boyfriend anymore. I had confidence. One sunny weekend, Riley dragged me back to our old neighborhood in Capitol Hill. We walked the familiar streets, hand in hand. "Hey, remember that tree?" She pointed to a gnarled oak. "That's where the chubby kid from next door stole your lollipop, and you cried like a baby." I groaned. "Ancient history, Riley." "I remember." She grinned. "I had to beat him up to get it back for you." I laughed. She had always been my protector. We stopped at a candy shop, and she pointed at a giant rainbow lollipop. "I want that." We sat on a bench, eating candy like kids. The sun dappled through the leaves. Riley rested her head on my shoulder. "Caleb." "Yeah." "Do you remember what you said to me after I got your candy back that day?" "No." "What?" "You said," she giggled, "Riley, you're the best. When I grow up, I'm going to make you my wife." My brain froze. I said that." Riley burst out laughing. "I'm kidding. Look at your face." I swatted her arm, then grabbed her hand and pulled her close. The laughter died down, replaced by a warm silence. I looked at her, my best friend, my savior, my love. I leaned in and kissed her, long and deep. "Riley, maybe I didn't say it back then, but I'm saying it now." She pulled back, eyes wide. "When I'm ready. When I'm the man you deserve. Let's get married." Riley's eyes filled with happy tears. She didn't make a sarcastic comment. She just nodded, burying her face in my neck. The sun was shining. The nightmare was over. I was finally awake, and I was holding the only dream that mattered.